Well, let's kick this off. Let's welcome you back for another session of That's Growth Ops Fireside Chats, and I'm thrilled today to really dive into some news that I've been reading about. But before we do that, how's your week been, man?
This has been it's been a fun week for like a bunch of reasons. Like one, we got some upgrades. So
gorgeous.
After work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, shout out to Colin Crane, Woodworker of the Year, reframing this wall and then getting this put up. So a couple of very long days. Also went to San Jose and saw an old customer that was hitting the convention center for an optics show. He's doing some really exciting stuff with lens filters, Everix. Really cool. He actually came to, we did a growth happy hour last time I was in Orlando with some of our clients and some friends of the team. And that was, he signed his contract with us in the parking lot of the event because Will was like, you can't hang out unless you're a client. You can't fit, you have to finish the deal. You can't come in with an unsigned contract. So, Aman, thank you for doing that. You were a great client. I'm really happy to hear that you're growing, man. Well done. Keep it up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a good week, but like non-traditional week. Usually I'm like in the office Monday through Friday, kind of like controlled. This was a little chaotic, but embrace the chaos. How about you? What was your week like?
I think it was like one of the most productive weeks I've had in a while. Oh, here, you want a clap track? Here you go.
You just have that fight ready to go?
Oh, it's built in. It's built in. Riverside, if you want to sponsor us,
hashtag
we're awesome. No, it's great.
Carhartt too. Nabo.
A lot of it came from like obviously the weeks of planning that were being done, because I don't want to step over that, but it was just really productive. I feel like we're getting into a good spot with the teams being aligned, knowing where their working geniuses are, and being able to leverage that. And then bringing in like some of the tracking stuff that I'll be now that I'm bringing in as well. I think that's going to be playing a big role going forward. So it's exciting. I'm having fun. I think that's like the key there is I get to do what I love and I get to have fun while doing it. So
I love hearing it. And of course, like we talk about, not on this recording, but having to jump into growth quickly for you to be able to see the landscape of the community, the clients. Thankfully, you already are very well aware of how companies work with HubSpot. It's been great. We're starting to turn into a decent sized team. So then having to like meet and work with a bunch of new humans is never easy. You never know what that other person is going to be like. Like, hint, if they're working at growth, they're probably pretty dope.
There you go. They are pretty dope. Here, I got a laugh track too.
I think you got to keep your natural one. Just record it.
Yeah, there we go. It's all good. So I don't know. We can go into some of the hot off the press stuff that I was coming across this week, or we can go into some exciting news if you've got some.
Yeah, well, I got an email. This is true at 3:13 p.m. on 5/17/2024 in California. And so I'm obviously in the sales process.
Uh-oh.
And we've acquired a marketing agency, Agile, out of like East Bay, California, so like outside of San Francisco. And we'll continue to talk about the differences between traditional marketing agencies and growth and why or why not you may choose or not choose the right tool for you. But one of the conversations you and I have explored through this conversation is there's a private school in Davis, and they've been using a traditional marketing agency. They've been around for 70 years. This is a true story. I'll give you the name at some point. And thankfully, most of the time they've been able to like advertise in local newspapers and things. But we know that millennials, people with children going to schools, much less private schools, aren't looking at the local newspaper ad to drive action.
This
You
is
yourself
actually perfect to talk
have a
about.
little one, right? I
Yeah.
don't, but I know I don't do that. So I'm just going to assume that if I had one, I would find my school of choice there. Anyway, lovely school, Doris Eden, send me an email 31 minutes ago that says, Chris, let's set up the 3-month plan we discussed. Let me know what I need to do to get this ball rolling. I will say, yeah, thank you.
There you go.
You know, for you, this was really one of the first chances we had to work together. So you're a rock star and you have a lot of experience. So it was really like excited, but also like a little intimidating having you just like carte blanche see my sales process. You know, because who knows what your feedback would have been. I've never really had anybody with similar experience see what I do. But earlier today, 1 hour ago, I sent an email that said Happy Friday, person's name. I was hoping to get a temperature check around our conversation. Is working with growth something you're considering? If yes, I'd love to introduce you to Katrina, who runs our service department. She's also based in Pacific Grove, Monterey, and would be working with Rich to ensure your account is well managed. And then she sent me the short reply, which was wonderful. I'm still think she should meet Katrina. But one of the things that we found with the company that we acquired customers is there was a disconnect in the communication and the expectation. And that led to some tough conversations, but ultimately allowed us to like kind of reestablish why focusing on growth is so important, and maybe even like getting out of the weeds of like the individual post and things that are required to make that happen. And let's just focus on the results and hire us for anyway. Very excited. That was lovely.
That's
to
awesome
hear.
news.
Thank you for your help.
Great way to wrap a week. I mean, we've put some time and effort into a few of these calls. It's been an interesting couple weeks dealing with them. But no, I'm excited to hear that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man. It's you know, I think it's important. Just you never know what someone's experience is like in life and in business. So like creating a safe space for them to be able to share, that was a challenge because we definitely had to take on some of the energy from their previous engagement with a different company. Well, maybe it isn't different. It's my company now. But I keep forgetting. I can't just like throw them completely to the wind because now agile is growth. But it was yeah, it was great. But it also felt really good approaching these companies with what I still am. I almost feel stronger about now, which is the traditional marketing agency process of prescribing solutions based off lines of service with an unguaranteed outcome is a broken system.
I mean, it's throw spaghetti at a wall, see what sticks, right?
Yeah. And like you're paying this much. I will say, like for us, we know when we invest with, into people like you, our business is time. We're a bit of a labor broker. But it helps when you document it well, using Asana or whatever. I think it's an okay place to come from where you're just talking about, hey, what you're paying for is time. The reason that this is why we charge for this amount of time is the type of people where we bring in the things that you aren't paying for, like ongoing training and education. And I think it creates a safe space and a tangible space to have communicate. If you need more, you buy more.
And how many of these organizations, especially in the traditional world, are bringing on previous agency owners with 20 years experience? Like you're bringing in top tier talent, and people got to pay for that. So
I think it's important.
It is. What's interesting, and I'll segue this because I want to bounce it off you. So I was doing some research, kind of preparing for today, as I always do. and I came across a survey that HubSpot put out about how to sell to millennials. And in there, and this would have been a great statistic, because I know in that sales conversation they were very anti-social media. But looking at the statistics, so did you know that 33% of millennials discover new products through social?
I would say
That's
how
where they spend most of their time.
I would think it's higher, and we don't realize it.
Oh, it's definitely probably higher because that's just who they surveyed. But
I have an example right here. This protein bar called Built was an Instagram ad, and I'm on order number 3. It's like a low sugar, not no sugar protein bar, but like I've been on this like weight loss journey forever. And it's and I mean like forever. But yeah, it's delicious and it's low calorie, and I've had every protein on the planet, and it's very good. So shout out to Built Bar.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because like I'm looking at the data, and so 33% are through social media, primarily TikTok. 32% by searching on the internet. So that means they're already problem aware. They already know what they're looking for. Next big one was 23%, which was word of mouth. And then ads, like television and radio ads, came in at the lowest at about 11%. We don't listen to that stuff.
Down in Orlando, he's, let's say he's the sales director for Southeast for insert billboard company here. I know Bruce doesn't listen to this shit, but I've been arguing this statistic for 20 years with that guy. I'll send the link to the show to him. He'll get a crack out of these data points.
They're great. I'll send you the report.
I just got to put my face on TikTok again, man.
Yeah, you do. You actually you've got a video on TikTok now, just so you know.
Oh man,
it's already started. No, it's not that kind of video. Another interesting piece of news this week: Netflix, with their ad-supported service, which was a surprise to see them do that, has a whopping 40 million monthly users globally now. What's crazy is that 40% of these new users are actually opting in for this version where it's available.
So they save a couple bucks?
They save a couple bucks, they get ads, and their purchasing increases.
I think it's about time people understand the trade-off and are empowered to understand the trade-off of services and advertising. You know, like the whole argument with Facebook, how long did it take, still forever, for people to understand that they were the product that Facebook was selling?
Yeah. If you're not paying, you are the product.
Yeah. And I think it's a fair trade if it's put up front.
I think it's a fair trade when you have choice. I have a hard time paying for a service if I'm getting like a video service, if I'm getting ads. Now, where I will change my mind on that is if the ads are extremely relevant to me. That I don't care so much, but paying, and see, it's a little different in Canada because our subscriptions are a little bit more expensive on everything than it is in the US. Oh yeah, it's only a few bucks, but it gets up there.
Yeah, it adds up. What do you pay for your Netflix account?
I think Netflix we pay like $19.99.
Okay, I think you're right. I think I'm on I guess I can admit my lack of bookkeeping, but I think I'm $15, maybe 17. But that couple of dollars times millions of people. I mean, that's a significant monthly.
It is.
Big break. And
I mean, we have a finance minister in Canada saying, "Hey, if you just cut your Netflix subscription, you might save a few bucks every month." And like that's not how we solve this financial crisis that we're in.
Canada's struggling too.
Back to the point. Yeah,
we'll walk it back.
Oh yeah, everybody is. But yeah, back to the point. I got no problem paying for it if the ads are good. I mean, paying for it and getting ads if the ads are good. I get extremely annoyed if I'm paying for it and the ads are complete and utter crap. and they're like 5-6 times throughout what I'm trying to watch. It's like, dude, I just want to chill out.
Anyone can throw up ads too, which throw up ads is a good way to describe it. So it's, yeah, I mean, yes, just yes. There's such thing as bad ads and uncensored ads.
Yeah. Have you seen, and it launched in the US this week, not everywhere, Google's new AI overviews on your Google search results?
Yeah. I did a Google search today about, is sales acumen a soft or hard skill? And it was the first time I had seen an Google AI answer on desktop.
It's interesting. They are going to expand it globally this year, but there's been a lot of pushback from people who feels that it misrepresents or misinterprets their queries. So like one person said,
I mean, I think that's just an argument that in order for you to use AI well, you have to be a good communicator.
I agree on that part, but I mean, you could type in goldfish, and does it know that you want the cracker or the actual fish?
How would it know without AI?
Only by the way you typed it in. So you're right.
How many goldfish can you eat in a day? It's like either 1,500, goldfish crackers, or preferably 0 living goldfish. Maybe 1,500 is a lot, but
it's interesting because like this guy's saying here, like I read a whole bunch of people's comments, and this one was the first search result was exactly what I wanted, but the AI went wild, totally hallucinated, misinterpreted my query. It's a horrible, intrusive feature that ruins my browsing experience, and there's no way to turn it off. This might be the last straw that gets me off of Google and switch to Firefox or DuckDuckGo.
I think that person had already been considering it because no real adult is talking about DuckDuckGo unless you're save, pause, scratch, clap, whatever. DuckDuckGo is a waste, and I don't know. That person I already don't like. That seems like such a hard stance for a free service. Please go wherever you want. You're not the type of customer I want to do it.
Go back to Ask Jeeves.
That's crazy. Hey, it's also, here's another thing too. That was day one, guys. Can we just relax and give it a little of time to work itself out? Like, what is this God complex this person has where Google owes it to them to do this thing for free while also having a crystal ball to understand what you said? Just say what you needed more clearly, and you would have gotten the search result that you wanted 100% the first time.
Lazy. Well, they got the search result they wanted. It was the AI interpretation that was off. So,
oh my God. What's interesting to me, though, is on my desktop search, again, mentioning the business acumen thing, before it goes to any link to a third-party site, there's some micro sites it shows, but you have to scroll past the fold. So a few months ago, I talked on LinkedIn that search engine optimization is garbage, and I don't 100% mean it. But, and I know there's some people that have changed the way that they talk about SEO because that's their only line of business, and I get it. Well, it's not trash. It's kind of trash. But the way people are using computers and technology is changing, and search engine optimization as a line item better be changed, or you're purposely selling garbage to your customer, and I don't mind if you go out of business.
Well, I look at it like Gary Vaynerchuk said about 2-3 years ago. He's like, start focusing on voice, like creating content that you can tie in with Alexa.
Oh,
and here's exactly why. Because these AI models are now going to be looking for that kind of thing to train itself on. Eventually, the way we know search is going to completely change.
Yes.
It already is. Now, I akin it to the horse and buggy, how quickly it went out of fashion. Like, it went out of style like that as soon as Ford created the car, right?
Kevin Dean from Manobite posted on LinkedIn today. Shout out, Kevin, you've been great, friend and mentor. But he was commenting on one of those LinkedIn AI responses, right, to get his reach up. But it was like, how do you stay ahead of things? And apparently he lives near the Ford Museum, and Ford was quoted in saying, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And I thought that was just from like 100th of a second glance at like LinkedIn while I was scrolling, but it stuck. I was like, that is pretty clever.
Yeah.
Like, I maybe need to type that and write that down and put it in proposals.
He also used to say, you can have any color you want as long as it's black.
I like this guy. Come back.
There are reasons why we have successful entrepreneurs and unsuccessful ones, and ones that get lost in the weeds
and unsuccessful.
But to think about this, I think it's a great conversation. Like, we have to, as I don't want to call us marketers, but the marketers in us need to do better in influencing strategies beyond SEO. I do think SEO is an important component, but I think we need it to, as you said, adapt it to how people are using the internet today. And that's it.
I mean, if we were to get technical and just define the word marketing, right? The activity or business of promoting and selling a product or service, which includes the research and it includes the advertising. It's almost synonymous with, well, if that universe is changing, then you need to change. But it's simply the statement of delivering the message and the research about it and the tools you use, all of those things, under that umbrella of marketing.
I think it does bring up a scary proposition where the younger generations, I never thought those words would come out of my mouth, but the younger generations have a much shorter attention span and much higher desire for speed. So how I see search changing with AI is you're not going to be searching search results. You're going to get an answer, and that's what you're going to go with. Now, who is the guardian of that information? And I think that's the conversation that, like, Sam and all of them from OpenAI and everybody else in this realm are in conversation about, because we have to have a guardian, but whose moral efficacies get to play here?
But if we were to pull back and then just go to books, right? Pre-computers, pre-internet, and someone went to a library and said, I want a book on dragons, right? Whatever librarians use those cards. Okay, go to section one. Okay, right? And you go to the library, and then you look at the books of dragons, and you're like, close your eyes, pick one, and whatever it says is now what you believe for the rest of your life. How is that different than this new narrative? Nobody can say a book, Florida,
because
book banning, but like, you know what I'm saying? But outside of that, which is crazy, it's the same thought. You know what I mean? Like,
it is.
I don't know.
It is.
Maybe
I think the part is what information is it storing? Whose version of the truth is it? This is a very deep topic that I could sit and talk about for forever. But ultimately, I think it's up to the person who's reading it to go, is this actually fact or fiction? And then go from there. Because I could pick up a book on Pete's Dragon, or I could pick up the Robert Munch story of the Paper Bag Princess.
Honestly, I'm surprised you didn't say Game of Thrones.
I'm older than that. I love Game of Thrones. I do, but still, I'm not that big of a nerd. Give me a break. Yeah, so those were like the top pieces in the news in the last like few days that I wanted to chat about.
I mean, it's definitely relevant.
Yeah.
Buyer beware, reader beware. That's the nice thing about time and an area, like the wisdom to like look back and be like, well, that was not right. I can abridge that. I don't know. I think access to more information can be really powerful. There's probably only so much that like our brain, if it is to simplify it, a computer. I've certainly seen people that are very tied to digital functions that an overload happens, and there's negative side effects just from just input, and maybe it's not a volume, maybe it's the volume of channels, but just being surrounded by so many, a cell phone, a computer, Slack, just all these things, and then it almost creates like a override shutdown, because it's a lot. Maybe we weren't really queued up originally to operate that way.
Yeah, I don't think we were ever meant to have as much information as we have today. But
Who knows?
That's just the thing. So I'm going to segue a bit here because otherwise we're going to be talking about this forever, which is fine. I could do an episode just on this topic, but I know you're a few years older than me, so you might not remember this, but our very first fireside chat, which is only a few weeks ago, we had a conversation where we started talking about essential pieces to building out an ABM plan in your business. And I feel there was a topic in there that we didn't get to really dive deep into. And I see it coming up a lot. And it's about why businesses fail, or why they have trouble aligning their sales and marketing teams. I wanted to have a conversation about that because we're in this evolving landscape. It's always changing. We've got big sales teams, small sales teams, big marketing teams, small marketing teams, no marketing teams. Why is this such a big problem? What do you think that is?
Well, I think that like we can just simplify it with change is scary, and I think that's one. And so change can be adding something that isn't there now. So like, with the Doris Eaton example, we did things one way, so we didn't do things this new way. Mm-hmm. Cool, I get it. Feels better to be able to talk that through and learn. I think for our core customer, though, the sales and marketing alignment issue, there is a marketing department, there is a sales department, but I think it starts with like not truly understanding where they are in the process and how they collaborate. Also, I think a lot of company cultures, you have KPIs. And so there's a real fear that maybe the work that you're doing helps the KPI port that keeps you employed, but doesn't really do the justice of what it's supposed to do. And since there's not a authentic culture of progress, that, it prevents people from being able to make better choices. And that hurts collaboration too. So I think maybe the number one reason sales and marketing teams from established companies in the B2B space don't collaborate, I think, is company culture.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, my post the other day, I called it divergent goals. They've got just different goals and there's nothing shared between them. They're not talking about it. Like, I think, like, I look at growth and everybody's got everybody's back to help everyone achieve their goals. I look at other organizations that I've been a part of, not going to name any names, where each team member within a team has their own goals, which often is the case, but nobody's helping you reach them. Often in that culture, there was a lot of backstabbing, so that you could get ahead and actually hit your goals. And then
that
team to
couldn't
team,
happen here,
it was
though.
difficult.
You know, it's like,
It couldn't.
and again, going back to company culture, for better or worse, when I got to this latest iteration, the last couple of years of a company, I felt that for me, when I look on the outside, what are the organizations that I'm most impressed with? And the New Zealand All Blacks were an organization. Obviously, for most traditional people's brains, why would you tie the New Zealand All Blacks to a consultancy? And a few things were, to me, seemed very obvious. One, rugby is a very collaborative sport, and it's a type of sport where things happen so quickly that you don't get to choose whether you're the type of person that takes the hit or lets your teammate take the hit. Your reaction kicks in before your brain does. So you'll know very quickly if you are a selfish person or you're a team player. So just from the game of rugby, I think there's a lot of things. And also every player has a primary role, but they also have secondary and third functions. So I think that's also very important in a team environment. Also, you have to be in shape. So you got to like mentally and physically be ready to go, because if you're not, you can't communicate clearly in stressful situations or when you're deep in the game. That's the same. That happens at work from companies that I've worked with. Thankfully, mostly not us, because we take mental health and time and space very seriously. You know, for the All Blacks specifically, you know, they created a brand that's beyond any of the legends that have played for the team. And so for us, and I mean, hopefully you can attest to this, I say when you're coming to growth, you should expect that it may be a little bit more intense. You're going to be playing hard. But growth is going to continue growing, and we're going to continue being growth. And so when you're ready to be benched, let me know, and we'll help find you another team where you'll probably make a little bit more money and work a little less. But while you're here, be ready to go, because every day I wake up and I am pumped. And I have to have that energy from everybody, or else it's like a house of cards.
That's good.
I'm a crazy person. I get it.
You know what? We're all crazy.
The good ones are.
I mean, just Steve Jobs, to the crazy ones.
Fair.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
I'm not even I don't watch rugby every day. I'm not keeping track of everybody's stats. That was a big hunk of my life, and I do feel that it gave me a lot of the tools that have allowed me to thrive personally, and indirectly people have said thank you for learning or being around it, and then it all kind of tied back to that one thing. And thankfully I'm old enough now where I can be like, well, that's the plan. We'll be the New Zealand All Blacks of operational consulting firms.
Well, you were structurally built for rugby, so
yes, true.
Whereas me,
yeah,
no,
that's true.
No.
Yeah. But that's an interesting thing too. A lot of shapes and sizes on the rugby field. There's some really amazing players that are 5'8", $160, not big dudes.
That's me. I fit it. Well, I'm about $180 now. I gotta
we're working on it. Haven't you built bars? But no, I mean that's kind of I think one of the secondary things too. In a team, in our capacity of a consulting, we do have different shapes and sizes.
Yeah. And I think it's you gotta hone in on that, right? You gotta understand. Well, it's even when I came on board, I think differently than you do. It's a positive, and surprisingly, we haven't clashed much yet. But you got to lean into everybody's abilities. I think that helps and helps foster that alignment a bit. The other thing that I think about is this quote that I heard many years ago, and it was the biggest communication problem is we don't listen to understand, we listen to reply. So how many of these teams, and I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, how many of these teams are actually listening to what the other team is saying, or just waiting for a chance to say what they have to say?
Again, I mean, I think when the founder of Airbnb, I guess, is like big on talking about company culture. And I guess, I don't know, I don't follow the guy, but I see him pop up when I'm Googling company culture. And I guess the big takeaway is that you can't just say company culture is the thing. Be like, hey, what does everybody want it to be? Put it on the wall. Let's put big cutouts. The culture happens. Like, oh, I don't mean, what would be attitude or like, you know what I mean? Or whatever. So culture, at least from his perspective, and I think I tend to agree, is a side effect of how you and the people at your company change. And it can't be talked about. It has to be done. So I think we've shown time and time again that when there's friction or there's time to change, or there's even the opportunity to talk about changing, we, by default now, lean on each other to get outside perspectives and to collaborate around a solution. This is not a dictatorship. I am not the smartest one in the room. We are literally smarter by working together than any individual at Growth, except maybe Amy. She is next level. And you also have a little bit of that. Okay, fine. We're all very smart.
We're all very smart.
Yes.
Like everybody's got their wheelhouse, and we've got that leveraged quite well. I'm just thinking. My head hurts.
It was a long week, man. That was a crazy week.
It was good. What?
And your little one was sick. That's not fun.
Oh, it's gotta get better here, hopefully, with the season changes. Or just move to California. How's that sound?
To me, it sounds wonderful.
Tell me about some tools then. Like, because you mentioned in that last episode, we can come in and we can do an alignment meeting. We can assess and create alignment between the departments. What's that look like? Let's be practical. Let's be on the field.
What tools do we use to create alignment?
How are you doing it?
Well, I think it does take the ownership of one person, whatever the issue is, whoever's owning the process of collaborating or aligning, to provide like the overview. Like, why are we all here? And that comes from like a level of respect and whatever the opposite of selfish is. To basically say selfless. I'm going to frame this up so that way you can just do your thing while you're here. So what do I like to do? I love a new doc. I love an overview. And then I love some bullet points with goals. And then I'll even go and say like tools and resources, just so I can start to put some things together. And it doesn't need to be complicated. Super easy. Then you share it with the people that you're going to collaborate with first, sometimes. In a perfect world, if you have the time, that's the best way to do it. But you can do it on the fly in the meeting. And that way, when the person is joining, because they've got all their things that they have to worry about, they can get laser focused, know exactly what we're talking about, and then you can really lean in to their superpower, which is probably around their role, but also some of those like working genius superpowers. And then that's how you do it. You go after your goal. And then depending on the thing that you're aligning on, it will play out like, does somebody need to do some follow-up? Is there some research? But I would say that's how you start it.
Yeah. And you got to be aware that it's out of whack in the first place.
It's tough. I mean, I'm sure there's like EOS people and just like there's people out there who have made a career off of helping break down alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes like for established companies, I would imagine if you've been working with the same people for 5 or 10, 15 years, I would imagine it's probably and it's like a tough conversation. Like, we got to change. Like, oh, we've been using spreadsheets forever. We need a CRM. I would imagine that like having a third party to come in and evaluate it and giving space for each of the, am I talking about our sales process on accident? Giving space for each of the parties to voice and then like be the collector of the room to say, so to me, it sounds like we're all talking about these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So if we're how do we solve, anyway, a facilitator from a third party does not need to be us selling you something. It can be helpful. And there's a lot of facilitators out there, I'm sure.
That's awesome. So let me go here now. You've just spent the last few weeks back in the sales seat. What's broken?
I think we had unrealistic expectations. Like, we had a personnel problem, not a process problem. And Will David, for anybody that's watching this show probably knows growth. And if you know growth, you know me. If you know me, you know Will. It was just too big of an ask. Like, how can you authentically be that person that's here to say hello and then facilitate them through this sometimes a week, sometimes a month, sometimes 3 months, sometimes a year journey to find whatever it is that is needing to be worked on by growth for us to do it. So that was one thing. It was like kind of like a aha moment for me. Like, okay, we need to change the role and expectation. We still need this person. Like, we need this role. This role has never been named. So that's one thing. And then we also learned that, and because we're not new now, but we have been new and learning and evolving, some of the things that we thought were working and we kind of quadrupled down on maybe weren't working. So maybe we were overcomplicating processes, which is why I tried a different direction with, the agile customers. Let's, instead of having a proposal, we're basically saying our previous proposal was executive summary. Hey, based on our conversations, this is what we heard from you. Then priorities. These are the 3 to 5 key priorities. But then we go straight into like services. And then terms and pricing, and that was it. So what I've done
Very
the last
traditional.
2 weeks, yeah, right. Now it's like, let's turn it to consultative. And I don't have it memorized as well because I've only been doing this a couple of weeks. But instead, it's now like, again, what's the overview of what we're talking about? How did we get here? What are some of the consequences by the current situation? What is the proposed solution from a high level? Then what's the scope, what's involved, what's the timeline, and what's the cost and why? To me, it reads to me like, oh, this actually is very digestible and is almost able to take what could be a very complicated problem and making it like, what is that? Tell me like I'm in 5th grade or like I'm a 5-year-old. Like, it almost does that by design, using human language and, like a integration, you'd still use the format, but you may have like, a mirror board inside that says everything we're talking about is diagrammed below.
You and your diagrams.
By the way, I did not make this.
Oh, you mean that thing right there that you're talking about? The thing that's already on my diagram?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, oh, that's right. That happened with them, right? Like, hey, we would love to do a newsletter. Oh, cool. That is actually in red, but it's blocked because you don't have any database of who you would be sending to your customers in this case. But it's there. Like, damn.
What would you say was, like we talked about what was broken? What would you say was the funnest part?
The most fun part? Funnest?
Yeah, the most fun. Like, what got you feeling good and how am I trying to say this? You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, like what did I enjoy about being in sales for a couple of weeks?
That's what I'm trying to say. It's Friday. Give me a break.
It's so Friday. I honestly liked all of it. I loved being able to I did a lot of bull in a china shop things. Like I tried using the prospecting tab in my HubSpot Sales Pro software and was not a fan because I couldn't legitimately see the people that I was reaching out to. And sorry, HubSpot, this might be my first critique of 2024. It's not great. So I created my own prospecting tool. So that way I could hold myself accountable to following up to the conversations that I was having. I found that fun. I got to focus on hearing and just listening to what other people were saying. It was precarious considering some of them were pretty upset. but it still felt good knowing that I could hear them and I understood why they felt that way. And that actually is why I do run growth the way I run growth. Like everything that you're saying, I agree with. And it's literally the fuel that created what I'm pitching to you right now. Like, well, damn, that's a lot more expensive. And it's like, unfortunately, one of the things that has to change is what you're paying. Because in order to have experts solving your complex problems, we have to pay them to be experts. And
don't farm out your talent, you know. That was my lesson.
There's a lot of really talented people overseas, and I'm sure there's business models where it works. But right now, we're not at a point in our career where we're doing that. We've got Brad in New Zealand, we've got you in Canada. I'm going to continue to lean on finding exceptional talent, no matter where they are. But it's not hey, we're going to do a transaction. You know, there's a reality. Like someone living in San Francisco may be different than somebody living in Kenya. As long as they're making what would be considered market salary for that area, you know, and you're not trying to jip them. I think that's okay. Is jip still a word that I can say? Jip? Define?
I don't know. It's a word I still use.
Cheat or swindle? Yeah, don't be cheating or swindling anybody. Approved for 2024.
That's a whole other topic. All right. I think we're getting close to time. So, you know, is there anything that you want to share? Anything else you want to share? Is there anything from today's conversation that's kind of got you, hey, that was interesting? Anything else on your mind?
Well, I don't know the date. I've got an upcoming webinar, which I'm excited about. It is on...
I just saw it on my feed.
Just creating target account list, because for a lot of B2B companies, this is a very hard part to wrap your head around. Like, how do you get started? So it's a 20-minute micro lesson. We've got a bunch of those micro lessons. You know, we've had some really cool softwares that have helped us out to create these tools. So excited about that. And I've got another one coming up next month. Basically why HubSpot and Apollo are mega tools for sales and outbound and identifying customers and engaging with them. Like flywheel fuel. Trademark. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
So yeah, you've got your webinar, Building Your Best Target Account List, May 23rd. So guys, if you are watching this before that date, make sure you go register. And if you're watching after that date, go get the replay.
Ooh, Google it. It'll be there. Chris Null, super awesome dude, webinar.
Or go to growthoperationsfirm.com and subscribe.
What he said. It's so fun. Like how fast it feels like our chats are 5 minutes.
I'm just that awesome.
It is. And it would be fun. I'm excited next week. We don't know whom will appear, but I think we are going to try to start bringing in someone from growth that represents a different part of growth operations. So I'm excited to, don't know who it's going to be yet, but I'm excited to pepper them in and see what they think about our world.
It's going to be very interesting. I have a feeling. I'd love to get some Jesse flavor in here. That would be great.
He's on vacay next week in Thailand.
I know. Lucky guy.
Dude, yeah, he'd be great. Jason, Katrina. I mean, literally anybody. Rick.
Anybody from the team would be great. Yeah. Everybody's got, as you said earlier. He did a webinar yesterday?
Today? He did a client discovery call in Orlando. One of the HubSpot reps was like, hey, can you help us out? They really want to do this in person. Rick went on site, and since it was a pretty heavy HubSpot implementation, and we love to show up over prepared, he brought his laptop, cracked it open, and then had Jason run some of the disco from a laptop while Rick's sitting there.
That's baller. That's how you do it. You know, you just.
I mean, it might not always be the traditional answer, but we're gonna find an answer.
It'll work. It'll work. Anything that sparked your mind from our conversation today?
I just think it's important to realize that, communication is not always easy and it's not always painless, but it's also never as bad as when you just like start the process of solving a problem. So if your marketing and your sales department is not grooving and you're feeling it, be the one to step in and start kicking that door down, because the being on the other side of that is always better.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I got pretty close to here was like lean into the culture. Like,
yeah,
20 years of
on the wall.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's definitely not. It's a way to operate. I mean, and for me, 20 years of basically doing this by myself, and then not, and then joining a great culture. It's something I'm not used to. So it's like when you say, well, hey, if you're struggling with something, just reach out, or hey, just come chat with me about whatever. It's not something I commonly will take someone up on because I'm not used to being able to do it.
It's nice to hear that, because I don't think I have, since I'm not you or anyone else that started working at Growth, right? I wonder how many other people have felt that, and it takes a little while to be like, there's no way this guy's like seriously just going to talk to me through this thing that is potentially sticky, and me potentially saying I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't even think of it that way. I'm like, cool, you don't know how to do this thing, or this one thing's not working. Let's fix it. And 0% of me is, ooh, they're bad. They don't know how to do that thing. It doesn't occur in my brain at all.
Ooh,
at
they're
0%.
bad.
Yeah. Ooh. It's like, hey, that guy on the other team is huge. I don't know how to take that dude down. We still got to play the guy. We still got to win the game. Why am I worrying about you not being bigger or stronger right? You just move around, team, whatever. So
I get it.
Thank you for sharing that, man. You've been a really big addition. Not just any marketer could come in and create gold from what we've been working with, man.
Well,
So
and
clutch.
The other part that I've enjoyed is I don't want to beat a drum here, but like culture coming in, and we've got a good group of people, and like you just said, like I can come to you. They've been coming to me. Hey, how can I do this? How can I do that? Hey, what do you think of this idea? What do you think of that idea? Cool. You actually want my opinion. It's different.
Very much so. Right? Very much.
And that is just the general way of it. And I wish, people, leaders out there listening, embrace that. Bring that into your organization. Create that byproduct of your culture. That's what I say.
There's somebody, who was I talking to? I don't know, who cares? But I was talking to somebody, the way I believe I was taught. I've been in leadership roles since I was very young. My dad's a retired commander in the Navy and Eagle Scout, all that stuff. But for me, my personal expectation, and probably why I am this way, is I expect someone's best to be no better than my worst. And that's why I take ultimate responsibility on your success, everybody's success, our client's success. At the end of the day, I put the people here, I put the processes in place. So I have to own that. And it's exhausting to think that way, but it's also, at this point of the career, 20 years in, I'm very thankful that I've weathered the storm and I've been able to find these badasses to work together. And I feel the most confident. Mistakes are going to happen and we're all human and we'll get over them. But for the most part, it's just been a lot of wins.
That is a great way to wrap it up. Other than for me to say, I'm pretty jealous of your background there, and
I know, it's real.
I'm gonna have to figure something out on this end. I know.
Colin Crane, I'll give you his number. He'll fly up to Canada and install that. No, maybe he won't. I don't know. I won't put him on the thing. But Colin, thank you. It's awesome.
No, he did a great job. Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle. That's what we'll call next week's episode.
Bob's your uncle. No, I love it. All right. Well, let's just wrap this up.